Welcome Japan.
Hey, it's that time again for the Why Come Japan show, where I interview creatives here or inside or outside of Japan. Today we are inside Japan. I take you all the way down to Kagoshima, where I meet tour guide slash former classmate. And here with Cameron, Kagoshima Cameron, or KagoCam. What alias would you want to use?
Anything you want to call me. Kagoshima Cameron, KagoCam. It's all good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, certainly. So Cameron is a tour guide down in Kagoshima, but not just Kagoshima, like all over Japan, right?
Yeah. Well, I work as an independent travel agent, and I do tour guiding as well. I'm based here in Kagoshima, the southern tip of Japan, but also I kind of specialize in Kyushu Island, which is the large island down south.
Right. Okay. And you've been down in Kagoshima for how many years now?
About 4.5 years I've been down here now.
You love it? You're staying there forever, you think? Well, I guess that's kind of a... Maybe you hate... I mean, I don't know. I hate when people ask me, like, questions like that.
Yeah,
more I think about it.
Definitely get asked that a lot here in Japan. Yeah. But, I'm happy here, so it's good.
Okay. Yeah, it's good. It is kind of an annoying question. I guess supposedly, why come Japan is actually an annoying question, too. But, I don't know. I like the question, personally. I don't get offended by it.
Yeah, I think it's probably the most common question I'm asked.
Okay.
Why did you come to Japan, and when will you go home?
Right. Yeah. So you pretty much say that Kagoshima is your home away from home, pretty much.
I'd say so. I got married down here, and I'm looking to get my roots settled down here. So if I'm in Japan, I'll be in Kagoshima.
Okay, so for a little background for our viewers out there, you first went to college with me at Temple University, and then this was in Tokyo, and then later you had a couple of jobs. One with are there any that you can or can't share here? I guess.
I know.
I should probably brief my guests before I do this shit. I don't know.
Yeah. No. Yeah. We went to university together up in Tokyo. Then after that, I did teach English for a little bit before joining the travel industry. And I think what he's trying to say is, for a while I did work for Don Quixote, everybody's favorite discount store. But I was with their not actually the Don Quixote company, but one of their group companies that did overseas promotion and whatnot. So.
Okay, so you worked for Don Quixote, and then because we met. I didn't have time to edit. I made this like video blog, but I haven't had time to edit it because it's the end of the year, and if anybody who lives in Japan, you'll know that once you start living in Japan, by the end of the year, all hell kind of breaks loose. You have so much to do.
Yeah.
By January, everything's just dead. Nobody's really buying anything unless you have like a gym or you're really making a killing and selling self-help books or something.
Yeah.
So the point I was trying to make is that I met you down in Kagoshima, and you mentioned to me that you first worked at Don Quixote, and then Don Quixote, then you started working at a travel company. Is that right?
Yeah, basically the Don Quixote and the travel agent down here in Kagoshima did like a joint project, like a 1-year project, making a guidebook about Kagoshima. So I had the job opportunity to come down here, and once I was down here, I said I'm not going back to Tokyo. Kagoshima is a great place to live, and I prefer the countryside to the big city. So, yeah. So I left Don Quixote and started working down here.
What is it about the countryside do you think that appeals to people? It's just getting away from all the people and all the limited space.
Yeah. Me personally, you could say, I'm a country boy. I grew up in a small town up in Washington State, but I don't like the huge hordes of people getting on and off the trains and zombie-like salaryman's walking through the streets, and Just the personalities of the people in the countryside is much better, and seeing the nature and everything, it makes me feel calmer, much better.
Do you mind having to drive a car again? Because I mean, like in Tokyo, you don't really have to, drive at all.
Yeah, I was down here for about 2 years before I finally got my license, and
2 years. Okay.
yeah. So
Was that a bit of a pain not being able to drive down in Kagoshima?
not too bad. They do have a tram that goes through town, so I was able to get to work through that, so I was fine. But having a
Okay.
car is nice if you want to do any kind of day trips or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to get back to the timeline here. So you worked for a travel company, and now you kind of independently run your own company.
Yeah. Just a second. My cat's going crazy.
Cats and live streams. This is not the first cat.
Right there. She was jumping around behind my computer trying to get stuff she's not supposed to. Hi.
What? Your cat's name is Star?
Star. Yeah.
We talked prior towards this live stream.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, this isn't the first live stream where a cat has been.
I'm sure she'll make an appearance again.
Yeah. All right. Well, bye, Star.
Yeah. All right. So getting back to the timeline.
Yeah. So you independently run your own company.
Oh yeah. So for the first 4 years here in Kagoshima, I was working for that travel company. Then I wanted to kind of expand a little bit and become more independent, so I left, and now I'm just freelance, and I do tour guides, I do tour arrangements, more specifically for groups. I also work a lot with the local companies, kind of to make Kagoshima a better destination.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you do more than just Kagoshima, though.
True. Yeah. No, I do all. I mean, I can do group tours all over Japan. And again, I specialize in the Kyushu area. But working with the local companies, I do a lot in Kagoshima.
Okay. So in terms of like Kyushu, what's like the hot spot? Is it Kagoshima? Is there anywhere else that really?
Well, Fukuoka is the main place. It's
I guess that
the big
sense.
city up north, and that's where the main airport is here. And then everybody knows Nagasaki, so that's recently is becoming a more popular travel destination. Oita is another prefecture up north. It's well known for their hot springs. Then in the middle you have Kumamoto, but recently that's been struggling a bit because about 4 years ago there was a large earthquake.
Wait, that was 4 years ago? I feel like
maybe like 3 years ago, maybe.
All right.
But
yesterday
it destroyed their castle, which everybody visited. So they kind of lost all their good sightseeing places. So they're struggling right now.
Not even Kumamon could save it, because like Kumamon, the Yurikata, he's from Kumamoto, right?
He's from Kumamoto, so yeah, Kumamon is, I think, the only thing keeping them alive.
Oh. Well, because I remember, like, when I was in Kagoshima on the Shinkansen, I stopped over in Kumamoto, and they had like a severed head of Kumamoto in the station there.
In the station, yeah, they got this giant Kumamon, just like from the chest up.
Yeah, I guess I always do this on the show because I think it's cute. Probably it's not cute for our listeners at home. Kumamon is like a big Japanese. It's like a big black bear with like red cheeks. You can probably Google. I know this is horrible for an audio show, but okay. So you're so a lot of people want to see Fukuoka. Do you know a lot about Fukuoka or not too much?
I know a bit. If you want to go around to the sightseeing areas, I can do that. They claim to be a big food city. So like their ramen is quite well known, and at nighttime they have many food stalls they call yatai. So there's a lot of that just on the streets. A popular destination is called Dazaifu, which is a shrine. It's a nice little traditional neighborhood. You kind of walk. It's about, I'm going to say, 500 meters long. So just like this traditional area before you get to this beautiful shrine.
Mm-hmm.
That's the popular destination there in Fukuoka.
Good to know.
It's also, it's one of the biggest cities in Japan. So when people do a Kyushu tour, they often end in Fukuoka to do shopping and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The city activities.
So take us through like a normal day of a life, like as an independent tour guide. Like, what does that look like?
Well, there's a couple ways to answer that. One is when I'm actually on a tour with customers. If it's like a 1 week tour, and then so basically I have to wake up in the morning, make sure there's no problems, make sure everybody gets to breakfast.
That's kind of like being a babysitter.
Basically, I am a babysitter. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, usually for the Western groups or the inbound groups, it's not as difficult. They're much easier than the Japanese groups.
Really? I would not expect that.
Yeah. But then basically just make sure everyone's on time to depart on time. And I just look after all of them while they're traveling, make sure the itinerary goes smoothly, explain the areas, what the plan is for the day, the key points of each area, answer any questions, introduce restaurants if it's free time for lunch. Then when we get back to the hotel, just basically give them a rundown of the day to come and let them go. But yeah, usually, so the reason I say that the inbound groups are easier than the Japanese groups is I think the Japanese customers have higher standards and they expect the tour guide, tour escort to be available 24 hours a day.
Oh.
So, they want, that's just the standard of a Japanese guide. Where especially the Western customers, will check into the hotel and they say, okay, we're good. We don't need you tomorrow. Please, you can have some free time yourself. Where with the Japanese customers, I'm expected to be there and if they call me, I need to be there within a couple minutes to check them out. Or
actually, yeah, no, that makes sense. Actually, a friend of mine who worked at a hotel, a former Templeite, Larry, if you know who that is, Templeite, Tujer, Tujer. What would you call somebody from Temple University?
How about we go with a Templar?
Templar. That just sounds like a bad science fiction novel. No, he told me that he worked at a hotel.
Yeah.
And he was just telling me about how horrible the service industry is because it's very majime. I mean, very serious and very rigid and very demanding.
Definitely.
So I guess I could see that. So they kind of have these really high. I mean, you could say Japanese kind of have this higher expectation.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So whenever you see okay, so let me ask you this: when you have your tours, you have a website that's really popular. How does it kind of? I mean, usually with any business, released, I've seen in Business Canvas, they always have some sort of thing where you outsource and you get your customers.
Yeah.
Where do you find people? Do they message you, or do you have to find them, or?
So most of the time, so when I was with the travel agent, I did a lot of email sales, or whether it's just mass emails sent to travel agents, or if I contact travel agents that I know and just see if they have any customers or anything. Since becoming independent, I'm kind of having to start over. So I do still contact them a bit, but I also created a website that's up and going for people to see me if they search for Kagoshima stuff.
Okay, so kind of SEO content.
Yeah.
Okay, because I have a couple of friends of the podcast as well who tell me that they have to always be on their SEO content all the time to like make sure they get those clicks.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that's probably the best way to succeed. Not something I do as much. I have my since I am quite connected with many travel agents. Uh, I guess I target more of the travel agents than the individual travelers, so I don't need the clickbait as much.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, but targeting individual travelers is something that I want to develop more. Since becoming independent, I want to be able to work with more individual travelers to Kagoshima, because I think they are increasing more, and it's looking into the future. Group tours are slowly going to disappear.
Oh,
I
really?
mean, they'll always exist, but uh, the travel industry is moving more and more towards individual travelers over group tours.
I see. Yeah, I'm looking at your website right now. It seems
Yeah.
relatively pragmatic. I mean, okay. So, I mean, is it relatively hard to set up tours in Japan? Or would you say it's relatively really simple?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to answer that as yes and no,
Okay.
because to create a tour is really not that difficult. You just come up with an itinerary, and that's it's not too bad. But you have to be careful because, as with many things in Japan, the laws are quite strict and a bit tedious. Uh, for example, if you don't have a travel agent license, you cannot do certain reservations for people, or you can do reservations, but the payments you cannot do. Anytime money is exchanged through you, for example, you receive money from the customer and then pay a shop. If you don't have a license, that's technically illegal. So it's easy to arrange, but you also have to be careful to follow the laws.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of legal loopholes you kind of have to jump through.
exactly. Yeah,
But it's easy because uh it's in English? I don't know. Why is it easy?
because you just um, well, really, you just if you know what's available, you can just easily put together a schedule and recommend it to somebody.
Oh, okay.
I guess,
Do you have like a set like tour that you've put together?
yeah, it's something I'm developing right now. I haven't updated it to my website, but I'm trying to get some of those going, just to offer to people coming to Kagoshima. Um,
I see. So like kind of something that's set. But basically whenever somebody signs up for a tour, they just say, "Hey, I want to go to Kumamoto Castle or something." They
yeah,
usually have an idea of what they want to see.
yeah.
Okay.
Again, I think it's better to basically, as a business, if I want to do something, I could create those set tours, or I guess like an itinerary, and that would be more of just like a recommendation that they can go to by themselves.
Mhm.
But if they wanted something more, or if they want a custom tour, that's when they contact me. If they want a little something more than the basic courses.
Okay. I see. All right. So it's kind of like a grab bag in a way.
Yeah, why it's also more uh, enjoyable for me to do custom tours. Uh, that requires researching a little bit, but
Uh-huh.
but researching makes the job more fun.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, it's part. I mean, that's part of like what you learn in school, and then like sometimes when right after your schooling is over, you're like, well, now what do I do? I guess I read this book and learn more about Japan because I want to know more about where my surroundings are.
Yeah.
So, were there any things that you wish that you knew before starting a tour, this tour company?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
You know,
Think about this one.
yeah. Well, something that I kind of wish that I prepared a bit more is more like the SNS stuff. Is having existing on SNS and being successful that way. Because when I moved from the travel company to myself, I had to basically rebrand myself. People in Kagoshima know who I am. But if I'm going to target individual travelers, then that's, you really have to have an online presence. So it's quite difficult to start at zero and
Yeah, I can imagine.
expect to have customers. So, but I'm actually not that big in the SNS world, so it's something I need to improve. But yeah, and again with I guess something that I wish I would have known, I talked about just a second ago, is just understanding what can be done and what cannot be done.
Oh, right. The
For
rules,
Japanese
yeah.
laws. Yeah. I mean, I would love to, since I have my license, I would love to, drive customers around. But that also becomes a bit of a gray zone, because if you take money to drive somebody around, you have to have like a taxi license or a special license.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Not a taxi license, but it's they call it a Type 2 driver's license, I believe it would be called in English. And then you also have to have a specific kind of car with a license plate, a registered license plate to drive people around. But many people don't do that, so there's a few loopholes, and it's a kind of a gray zone. But for anybody who is escorting people around, you should be careful, because I think the government's starting to crack down on that.
Right. Well, I mean, you've seen like stuff in the news about like how they crack down on Uber and like Airbnb.
Yeah. So basically, Japan likes to follow regulations and protect what is there, and so it comes with quite a hefty fine if you get caught driving people around and getting paid for it when you're not certified and registered. So,
what's your opinion on all that? Like how strict
it's
everything is?
I think it's holding back the travel industry, because so many people want English-speaking drivers, and all the English speakers, there's very few of them, because it's so difficult or basically it's such a pain in the ass to get everything registered and licensed.
Yeah, that is true. Because I mean, I was in a taxi here in Tokyo a little while ago, and it's just like, and it says easy access English menu, and like it just has like this thing where it's like point and ask. Like, there's the entire thing, this whole book, like all prepared, for people who can't speak English. Like, did you hear about Shinjuku Gyoen? About how they've been losing all this money? For some context, Shinjuku Gyoen's a garden in Shinjuku Station. A very nice one. But supposedly for years, they were the only reason why they were losing money was because the guards at who collected the money, the clerks, right? They were too afraid to speak English, so they just let them in for free. And so for the longest time, I'm always like, "Oh, Shinjuku Gyoen, yeah, you can just go in there for free," because I used to go in there for free all the time.
I didn't know it cost money.
Yeah, no, I didn't know it costed money either.
I used to just walk in.
But yeah, I guess now they're changing that because they're losing money.
That's good.
Yeah, no, it seems. I mean, it is. I mean, I can understand why they here in Japan they want to have people keep their taxi jobs or their, hotel jobs, because I guess like you see in the States how Uber and I guess Airbnb have kind of taken money away from the bigger, I guess, hotels and taxi people. But I don't know. You can't really halt progress, you know.
No,
You can't. You can't.
Yeah, but they're trying to protect the traditions and protect the habits that they have. But I also think it's Japan is all about safety number one. So if there's ever an accident where a tourist gets hurt, or and a chance if they die or something, it's going to be big news. And
yeah, it's true. You always hear about that, like especially like when Line became very big. It suddenly became a very Ayashi kind of app for a while. For a while.
Oh yeah,
you don't think so?
I didn't know. Why is that?
You Line, the messaging app, which is kind of like the WhatsApp of Japan.
Yeah.
Basically, like they had like a bunch of these high schoolers that would do these group chats, and they would gang up and bully some of these students and stuff.
Yeah, the bullying part of it, I see.
Yeah, it was the bullying part. It's like, like kids ruin everything, really. But I think that's like why Line has all these restrictions on it now. Like you have to like confirm your age and everything by what is it? You have to like give your SoftBank ID to them.
Yeah. It's your phone. You have to confirm it through your phone service.
Yeah, which is for the longest time I couldn't get it to work. I finally got around it to work. So, my goodness. Yeah, but yeah, that's definitely the truth. Safety number one, I guess. Whatever safety is, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But what is it? There's been like a huge like influx of, or at least on the news, I've been seeing a huge influx of foreigners come to Japan. I mean, not just foreigners like us. I mean, like Asian foreigners.
Yeah.
Have you seen any of that? Because I've definitely been seeing it like more at like convenience stores.
Of course, and they're also becoming more relaxed on foreigners working, which is why you see more of them. Like workers at convenience stores are now becoming more and more foreigners. But the international travelers to Japan has been rapidly increasing over the last 10 years. I mean, actually, it really got its start back in 2003 when the prime minister at the time announced they want to start focusing on inbound travelers. But then it really picked up steam about 2012, I guess, when the government started making big efforts to promote overseas, and also make it easier to travel. For a lot of the Asian countries, they've relaxed a lot of the visa requirements, or even removed visas, travel visa. You don't need it for many countries anymore, and it just allowed many of the Asian travelers to come to Japan when they couldn't before. And also, when you include that they're focused on the Olympics coming up in 2020, there's just been huge promotion from the governments to get inbound, international tourists.
Yeah,
but it's created a few problems within Japan as well. When all of a sudden you got this huge influx of international travelers in an area that is not prepared for that.
You think this place isn't prepared for international travelers?
Tokyo and Osaka, they're good to go, but now, because of the international travel, a lot of hotels are fully booked, and it's becoming difficult to travel. So they're having to build new hotels to accommodate them.
Right.
And then you get people that they want to do the next step, which is go to the countryside, where, I mean, it's changed a bit now, but basically the countryside has almost zero English.
Right.
Or, and sometimes you get people that are maybe not as friendly to foreigners as you would like them to be.
All right.
Not as welcoming.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just kind of pretty obvious.
Well,
I mean, like, well, okay, for us, it's like we already know what everything looks like here.
yeah.
Like, I was talking to my dad yesterday, who messaged me. He said, I keep on reading on the news about how there's all these vacant houses in Japan. It's like,
Oh yeah, that's starting to be promoted a bit.
yeah. And long story short, I mean, like saying, well, the problem is a lot of these vacant houses is they're all in places nobody really wants to live.
That's why they're vacant. So
Yeah, it's like most people in Japan, like you kind of have to think about the geography, how most people just want to live near a major train station or somewhere close to a station, because not a lot of people, particularly in Tokyo or any big city, most of the places in Japan that aren't countryside, I'd say it's all, most people, they don't have cars. So sometimes you have like these buildings out like in the middle of like nowhere that's nowhere near a station and nobody really wants it.
yeah.
So that's the thing.
Yeah. Well, and the declining population and all the young Japanese people want to move to Tokyo and move to the big cities, or even like here in Kagoshima, in the local areas, the kind of outside Kagoshima City, people want to move to Kagoshima City. So, especially in the countryside, the population is declining quickly. So your businesses are, they're going out of business, and houses are starting to be vacated. And it's kind of it's a movement to try to bring people to the countryside. You can have a free house if you live here, and if you work here, you can have a free house. But I don't know how successful it is. They finally started to target foreigners for it. I haven't heard of many people taking it, but it seems interesting.
So if you had to guess or predict, what do you think Japan's going to look like in 10 years? Because I mean, we've almost been here for 10 years, or at least maybe you've been here longer than I have, but the country, I mean, not Kagoshima or Tokyo, but
it's a good question.
Because like what I picture is like, actually, you know what? I don't know. It's just like there's so many possibilities. What could happen or what couldn't happen? Because like I mean, this country's been closed for so long. I mean, like when it feels I feel nostalgic in a way compared to how it was in 2009 compared to how it is today.
Well,
because I walk outside in Japan, Tokyo, I'm like here, and I'd never maybe see one or two foreigners. Now I see at least 20. It's not it's really hard to compare how it was in 2009 versus how it is now in 2018.
But down here in Kagoshima, there's still not too many foreigners. I think it's still, when I go out, I see just a handful of them. Today I went to downtown and came back, and I think I saw maybe just 2 or 3 foreigners. So it's kind of like how Tokyo was 10 years ago. I think Tokyo and maybe Osaka, Fukuoka, the big, maybe the top 5 cities, they're going to become more and more filled with foreigners. But I think the countryside maybe won't change very much. With regards to the tourism, I think inbound tourism is going to peak, or at least flatline.
I guess
not flatline, but
probably after the Olympics. You think?
Yeah, after the Olympics, Japan is pushing so much to get foreigners to come, but to be honest, I think a lot of things aren't prepared, and so their strategy is just to get people to come, but not to come back. If that makes sense.
Well, it's kind of like I guess I could compare Japan to like Disneyland. It's like you go to Disneyland and you're like, well, I went to Disneyland, that's over. You know, you have no reason to go back, you know, or it's like Chuck E. Cheese, you know, you go there once, like, well, I saw the robots, ate the terrible pizza, played the games, I'm done.
Yeah.
You know?
But I think, but an interesting way to look at it is the tourism industry in Japan is very young. When you consider tourism as an industry, Japan is maybe just 10 to 20 years old. When you look at the Western world or Europe, they've had a couple hundred years of tourism. I
Right.
think the first, I guess you could call like sightseeing tours, were by the British traveling to France in the late 1700s, I believe it was.
Hmm.
And since then, France has been developing as a tourist destination. So that's 230, 40 years. But Japan as a tourist destination, as actually an industry to develop travel, is still quite young. So, they could study from the rest of the world and take off and become very successful, or they could try to do it their own way, which I think may hit some brick walls.
Right.
But a lot of the tourism promotion and tourism related advertising and everything is mostly controlled by the government. And I think when that happens, the Japanese government isn't necessarily doesn't really push to move into the future, I guess, to put it in a
Yeah, I guess I could
soft
see
way.
that too.
Um,
I don't really see much, interest in coming to because like I was telling my girlfriend who's from China, and like she always has friends come over to Japan, to go on shopping tours and everything because in Japan, uh, high fashion is like the thing,
yeah,
everybody wants, and and sometimes she asks me these questions like, so when's your friend Matt's gonna come to Japan? I'm like, all right, first of all, you don't casually come over to Japan. It's like it's
yeah,
not something you just like
yeah,
uh happen to just plan. It's a big deal. So it's like it's something you have to put a lot of work and planning into. And not only that, it's like you have to also put a lot of time into like planning what you're going to do
yeah,
for the trip. And it's just like, I mean, because when my parents came here to Japan, when I was with you, Cameron, uh, it's like if we did not plan most of this before we got here, it would have been a nightmare, even like worse than it actually was.
yeah.
But so a lot of planning does really help. It saves lives. But let me ask you this: you said that you think they're going to hit a brick wall at some points. You think it's just because it's not uh,
It's
foreigner friendly? That's it.
no, it's not that it's not foreigner friendly, but it's expanding so quickly
Oh, I
that
see.
they're bound to hit speed bumps. Or
Oh, I
they're
see.
bound to run into problems.
Yeah.
I think it could continue to grow, but with things just seem to be moving too quickly, and I don't think the country can keep up with it. And if basically, to put it simply, is if you do not have good infrastructure and good products, people that visit are going to not be satisfied. And so there's huge promotions and huge campaigns to get people to come to Japan, but I don't think there's enough going on inside the country to support them long term. And so until that kind of changes, there's going to be some rough patches when it comes to international tourists. So if you promote an area that is not ready for a tourist and the tourist goes, they're going to give it a bad review, which
Oh,
means
right.
that later on people are not going to want to go to that area.
Oh, I see. Well,
That's
yeah, that's true. That's like Japan totally is probably not prepared for all the 5-star review things that exist in the world we have today. Because everything revolves around 5 stars. Like that app I was telling you about before we started. I was telling Cameron about this because I needed to make some easy money for like some English teaching app. I guess it's only available for iPhone, but it's an app that like it's kind of like Uber but for English teaching, and it's like they give you 5 stars per lesson. You know, it's kind of like just like that Black Mirror episode where everybody rates everyone 5 stars. But yeah, I don't think they're really prepared for that. But who knows? I mean, a lot can happen.
Yeah.
In like 10 years, 5 years. Do you feel like this is where you come in, where Japan doesn't feel like they've gotten the tourism game on lock? Or not really.
Yeah. Well, when I see, so since coming down here to Kagoshima, I've seen a lot of, they're trying to get on the bandwagon, the inbound travel bandwagon, and so you get a lot of the local areas that they receive, or they do like a 1-year project to develop the area, and a lot of times they'll get statistics and they'll do research on the area, but they won't really create anything that lasts into the future.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a 1-year project that to get statistics. It sounds very Japanese, but they just want the statistics, but don't have anything that lasts.
All right.
And the government is paying lots of money to do these special projects, but
Okay.
I don't really see any results happening. For example, this is something that just happened down here in Kagoshima.
Okay.
If anybody has heard the not tourism, but the environmental agency who runs all the national parks. They've chosen 8 parks to promote to Europe and America, and one of them is down here in Kagoshima. And they wanted to do like they call it a monitor tour, to where they offered a tour bus that departs from the airport and goes up into the mountain areas that has not so good public transportation. Basically, it was to do a trial run and get people to go to an area that they couldn't normally go to. And they hired a company in Tokyo to do this. So first of all, that for me says they don't really know the local area. But what they did is they had 2 buses that depart daily and basically do a loop around the mountain area. And this is specifically targeted towards international travelers. But I don't know how they never realized the buses both depart before any international flights arrive to the airport.
Oh God.
So how are you gonna target foreigners when they have no access to your tour? And they didn't think of this at all in the planning project. And so this is the kind of thing you see all throughout Japan. Is there you get companies that are like they call it a DMO, like a destination management organization, I believe is what it is, or a destination marketing company, DMC, that are supposed to do promotion and things like that, support an area. But basically, they just want the money from the government. So they'll take these big projects from the government and give statistics back to the government, but not really create any projects or don't really prepare the area for long term. And I feel like it's a big waste of money, and it's not helping the local area.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess they have to do the old saying, "Live and learn," right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it kind of. I get this in feeling. This is just my general feeling that I think I read some article too, but it was like Japan Times or Japan Today or something.
Yeah.
They said that because in general, foreigners don't really mingle all that well with like, the Japanese people,
Yeah.
because it's a little hard because most like usually in Japan, if you want to make friends, the best place, or at least this is what I've learned, if you want to make friends with Japanese people, you have to like work with them, like be part of their team or be
Well, yeah,
part of the job.
it's the easiest way. Yeah.
Or at least that's how I've made the best Japanese friends I've had that weren't like from school or whatever.
Yeah.
But because in general, because I mean, like versus like some place like America where you just have some random conversation with some guy at, I don't know, working at Safeway who's bagging stuff, right?
Yeah.
uh, so I get this impression that like sometimes sometimes your foreignness it doesn't mingle well with like the local population, and I
Yeah.
feel like that they would be happier not having them here. Or at least that's my impression.
You get that feeling sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's just sort of like, well, we kind of need them here because we need their money.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I kind of definitely, and when I talk to the locals or like in the industry, they often say, we need advice from foreigners, or it's good to get comments and input from foreigners. But then I think the when it comes time to actually take action, or there's like a project that's actually being done, they prefer to work domestically, just because that's how it's always been done. But I do see a little bit the travel industry is slowly starting to have more and more foreigners working in the industry. So that's a good sign.
Yeah, that's always a positive. I mean, I don't know. We'll see how much longer this can go on. For how long it feels like Japan's been kind of cut off from the rest of the world. I mean, this is great at some points because it really feels like you're getting away from everything else. Because I mean, it always seems like when the question like why come Japan, it's always like just to get away from people,
That's why I came here, just to get away.
Yeah. And like it's the farthest place you can be and not be bothered by anybody, pretty much. I mean, now like there's Facebook and all this other stuff, and people will still message you whenever, but still, like I said earlier, I mean, nobody casually comes to Japan unless you have a lot of patience, particularly. Okay, so I was actually looking into doing some of this tourist stuff. I don't know how difficult it is. I mean, it sounds like what you said earlier that there's lots of gray areas in terms of like rules and laws. And you say you get most of your clientele through, so refresh my memory here. So you get most of them through email or through phone calls or?
Well, so since I work for the travel agency, I have lots of contacts to foreign travel agents. And so that's always what I did before. But now since I'm working independently and I'm starting to, previously it was more me focusing on group tours. But as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to do more individual tours or offer products to individual travelers. So the style is changing a bit. Travel agents don't work as much with individual travelers, and so you need to have more of a presence online. An online presence is very important if you want to do tours for individuals.
Okay. How would you rate your online presence these days?
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being good, I'm probably about a 4 or 5. Not that
really
great. No, it's something I definitely need to improve.
Okay.
And
Well, because when I talk to you about this tour stuff,
Yeah.
I get this feeling of like such confidence, like when I see Cameron's face, I'm like, man, this is a guy I know who totally know a lot of stuff about tours, and like you can tell me how to get here, what I should do. I'm not saying that you're not being able to tell me this. I am saying that I get this vibe from just looking at your face. So.
Oh, thank you. I do have confidence in that area.
Okay,
And
good. All right, good. I don't do this to insult. I don't do this show just to insult my guests. So.
No. It's my sales effort is which I don't have confidence in. So when it comes to making tours and escorting people around, I definitely have confidence in that. I'm one of the few Westerners in Kyushu that specializes in Kyushu. I actually don't know any other Westerners that work in the travel industry or that arrange tours in Kyushu. So I may be the only one. I'm sure up in Fukuoka there's probably some. In Kagoshima, I'm definitely the only one. And so I do have confidence when it comes to organizing tours and everything like that. But
okay, so it's not very oversaturated yet.
no, I just need to improve my website and my SNS activity a bit to become more successful.
So it's kind of like YouTube before it is today. It's such a nightmare, YouTube today. So that's good to know. So it's a bit easier to start up tours because I mean, like I said, one of friend of the show, like they do photography tours and like Akihabara tours, and maybe you know some people in Tokyo that
doing tours in Tokyo would be much easier.
You think
because
so?
because of the transportation.
Oh, right.
Now, okay, so for anybody that wants to do their own tours,
yeah, this is what you came here for, guys.
Basically, I recommend. It is actually not that difficult to basically create a tour that you feel is unique, something different, or even something everybody does.
Okay.
And just offer your services, and then the customer pays for transportations, and you should have no problem. There's no loopholes that you have to go through. If they're just paying for your guide services or your interpretation translations, then there is no licenses required. So just keep it simple. They pay for transportation, they pay for meals, they pay for entrances, but you arrange the tour for them, or the itinerary, and you take them through the day.
Okay, so you don't have to have a license or anything when it comes to just doing independent tours. Okay, that's good to know.
That actually changed just a couple years ago. You used to have to have a license. Now they made it so you don't. So that's the one good thing.
Why did they change that rule? You'd think it'd be the other way around.
They wanted more people to come, so they wanted access to guides and whatnot. But
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
relax.
They've been doing a lot of relaxed laws here.
So in Tokyo, you could, because of the great train system and even taxis, you can do a tour much easier. But when you're out in the countryside here, when you rely on cars or like a tour bus or something, it becomes a bit more difficult.
Oh, I see. No, I got pretty much answers all my questions, and I don't feel ready to do my own tours yet, but I am definitely interested in it because it's something that it's been on the back of my mind because I interview a lot of people here in this show, and it sounds interesting.
The difficult part in Tokyo would be all the competition, other people wanting to do tours. So
yeah. So I guess before we call it a day, we call it a podcast. I guess we kind of have a question in the chat. I'm not sure if I quite understand this question.
Sure.
Maybe you might understand it. I hope I'm pronouncing this name right. Mark Hattenau. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. I'm sorry if I'm not. Mark Hottenau asks if you do business to business or business to consumer.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier about me working with travel agents or with individual travelers.
Okay.
Until now, I've always done B2B, business to business, travel agent to travel agent, business to business.
Okay.
But since I became independent, I want to develop the B2C, working directly to the customers, business to customers. So is what he's getting at there. So
which one's harder, business to business or business to consumer?
In Tokyo, since there's many more opportunities, as we were just talking about, you could, throw something together and not be restricted by the laws. B2C has bigger potential. But down here in Kyushu, where group tours are still quite popular, B2B is quite nice. Also, B2B is much more profitable, but it takes a little bit more of effort to arrange it.
Oh, I see. So you do mostly B2B down there in Kagoshima.
Until now, I've done more B2B.
Oh, I see. So you just need to know the right people, and then they give you names or people who are interested in tours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, B2B. Basically, you're working with travel agents. You're working with companies, businesses.
Do you have to pay them? I'm guessing pretty like a lot, or
No, they pay
how
me.
does like?
So
Oh, they pay you. Oh,
yeah. But that kind of business is starting to get less and less as Japan develops and more options become available for B2C, for individual travelers to join tours and to travel by themselves. As more information gets out there, the B2B is slowly becoming smaller and smaller.
Oh.
But it's still always going to exist because you have like school trips, or you have company trips, business meetings, or like company vacations. So the B2B will always continue to exist.
That's mostly domestic, though, right?
Well, international as well.
Okay.
It's kind of an industry term, but it's called MICE, which is meetings, incentives, conferences, and events. So MICE. I hope I got that right. Basically, it's just any work-related, work-related, or conferences and whatnot that with many people visiting. So that usually goes through travel agents, not individuals. So the B2B will always continue to exist, but B2C is becoming much and much more popular, which is why I want to develop it. And by developing the B2C market here in Kagoshima, it'll also give natural promotion to the area and spread awareness of the area as well.
Okay. So, like, let's say I was a foreigner. I was like some random guy who wanted to come to Japan. How do I get involved with a B2B? Is like B2B like HIS?
As an individual customer, you wouldn't do B2B. That is, for example, if you visit a travel agent, let's just say you're from Florida,
right?
And you visit a travel agent in Florida, then that is B2C. The travel agent is B, you are the C.
All right. Okay. All right. I'm just like trying to put the pieces together here.
But then when the Florida travel agent contacts travel agent in Japan, that is B2B.
Okay. I see. I got it now.
If any individual traveler contacted somebody in Japan, that would be B2C.
I see. I'm not. We have another question in the chat. I'm not sure if this is a joke or if this is real, but maybe you might know something about this. Do you know what M2M is and M2A is?
No.
Okay, and I'm guessing it's a joke. Oh man, gotten sick over the last week. It's gotten colder here.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then there's another one, AZZ to AZ. I'm guessing that's ass to ass. God damn it, Vince, your mom making me read these questions. He's a fan of the show, so
Good.
all right. Anything you want to say before we go? That's pretty much it for the. That's the podcast. You're out. You're gone. No.
Yeah, come to Kagoshima. Or come to Kyushu. Yeah.
I'll put the links down below. You can click on him if you want to book him. He knows his stuff. He speaks Japanese. What else? How else can I promote you, Cam? How good is your Japanese? I mean, you're really good.
My Japanese is just fine.
Just fine, my ass. It's like yours was the best Japanese out of everybody's at Temple when we first went there.
You're not really setting the standards very high.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, it seemed like you had a couple of us that were there, and they seemed like we had had a pretty good Japanese background. I mean, mine really sucked because I just got there for the first time. But I would like to, I look at myself and looking at my videos of me trying to speak Japanese in them horribly. Yeah. Like saying, man, I'm so much better now. But you've never taken like the Japanese language placement test at all, or?
I took it maybe 8 years ago.
Oh, did you pass or?
I passed, yeah. But that was just
one or?
I took the N2 and it was easy.
It was easy. Okay. Okay. All right. What I'm guessing N1's hard though. My girlfriend passed it, so.
If I ever want to take N1, I think the only thing holding me back would be the kanji. I just have to really study the kanji.
Okay. I see. All right, yeah, so if you want to book Cameron, he has N2 level Japanese. He's certified. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good certification. I'd want that certification. I'm too lazy to take tests, but maybe I'll get around to it at some point.
Tests are overrated.
Yeah, well, I don't know. People like seeing that stuff. It's like when you buy cereal, and like it has a nice little thing on it that says has calcium and vitamin C in it. It's like that. You get to like, oh, okay, or it's organic.
Yeah.
Or at least that's how I feel. That's a certification. It's like, okay, I'll buy this because it has this. That's all it's good for.
So I guess final thoughts though. If anyone's interested in Kagoshima, let me know. I can escort you around, for a price. Nothing's free. But I'm actually quite interested in targeting more of the foreigners living in Tokyo. So for example, if you have a group of friends that want to come down for a weekend, or if you want to do kind of a retreat or something, hit me up. For the people living in Japan, if you're not in Japan and want to come to Japan, I highly recommend taking a trip outside of, they call it the Golden Route, which is the big cities, Tokyo and Osaka and Kyoto. Come down to Kyushu, see what it's like.
All right. Okay, well, this was a live recording here on YouTube. I want to thank everybody for watching. Next week on our show is Justin Carter, filmmaker here in Japan. Finally get to talk about movies again. I love talking about movies. He will be on the show next week, Friday at 11 p.m. And until then, I'm Radrey.
I'm Cameron.
See ya.
Bye-bye.